This is a U.S. war of choice. President Trump singularly chose the timing, the extent.
Why would an American president do that, which is forcing gas prices to hike right here going into spring break?
Should we focus on overseas conflicts for resources or fix the severe struggles tearing apart our local neighborhoods? America has clearly made its choice. Funneling massive amounts of tax dollars and energy into building up our armed forces has created a devastating ripple effect. This choice indirectly trapped countless unhoused citizens nationwide in desperate situations that feel completely impossible to overcome.
It's a shame. The world is looking at it. Look at Los Angeles with the tents and the horrible, horrible, disgusting conditions. Look at San Francisco.
It feels like a failure. I failed hard in some areas of my life.
You see this tragic reality most clearly playing out on the streets of Los Angeles. What is actually fueling this unhoused epidemic? We need to examine the hidden factors that are silently tearing apart the famous City of Angels. Los Angeles is starting to resemble a dystopian movie set. As California's biggest metro area and the global hub for show business, this huge metropolis has always attracted hundreds of thousands of hopeful newcomers searching for riches and a better future, a dream that still survives. Based on statistics from 2023, the typical Los Angeles resident makes roughly $90,000 a year, crushing the national baseline. That baseline sits at $80,000, with experts predicting even higher earning potential throughout the current calendar year. Yet, hiding behind this glamorous facade is an incredibly dark reality. Right here, where billionaires constantly grow their massive fortunes. Almost 75,000 unhoused individuals fight a daily battle just to stay alive, frequently without a single dime. This massive divide separating the ultra-rich from the desperately poor is growing painfully obvious, creating a tragic situation nobody can simply look away from. Honestly, the true unhoused population in Los Angeles likely blows right past 75,000. That specific metric originates from a basic snapshot survey, often called the pit tally, essentially just counting folks sleeping outside on one random evening. It completely fails to include families surviving inside recreational vehicles, DIY tents, empty commercial buildings, or deep subway tunnels out of the public eye where official tracking is nearly impossible. Believe me, I am not blowing things out of proportion. This is the raw truth hitting Los Angeles today, particularly following recent border removals. Halfway through 2025, consequently, countless sociologists and journalists now use a heavy nickname for Los Angeles that perfectly summarizes this massive tragedy. They call it the epicenter of America's unhoused emergency. What makes this whole disaster so hard to wrap your head around isn't merely the statistics, but how extreme poverty sits right next to unimaginable wealth. Simultaneously, a completely different nightmare has been slowly gripping the pavement. The explosion of powerful synthetic narcotics is absolutely devastating these local blocks. Compared to older drug epidemics, these modern synthetics bring a terrifying new element that quietly destroys lives from the inside out while causing maximum damage. Users often appear physically frozen or mentally miles away, trapped in an intense disconnect that regular folks cannot even begin to understand. Across specific districts, this haunting sight is just normal daily life. You will see people frozen like statues or barely walking. They look totally numb to the world around them. While not always explosive, these quiet scenes are heartbreakingly memorable, exposing severe internal pain hidden right underneath. Mixing street living with serious chemical dependency creates an absolute nightmare scenario. 2. Sir, plenty of unhoused people are completely sober, but for many others, These heavy street substances make surviving an already chaotic existence virtually impossible. It triggers a vicious, endless loop where losing a home and falling into addiction constantly feed off each other. Inside this messy collision of extreme wealth, glaring poverty, and deadly synthetic drugs, a much darker truth emerges. It forces us to ask how our entire societal structure allows such massive prosperity and devastating despair to share the exact same zip code. People always claim living on the streets is a personal decision. I hear that garbage constantly. But the actual truth behind the unhoused epidemic is incredibly complicated. A million different variables push folks out of their homes. Down in Los Angeles, where financial stress dominates everything, working a reliable 9-to-5 with a decent paycheck is not enough to stop someone from facing eviction. This tragic journey rarely starts because of one bad choice. It is usually a slow avalanche of terrible luck. Your landlord skyrockets the rent. You end up in the emergency room. Or you stay unemployed way too long. On their own, you could probably handle these hurdles. Stacked up, they will completely wipe out your financial foundation. And when you are stuck in an expensive metro area getting pricier by the minute, you have literally zero room to make a mistake. Finding a place to sleep is the biggest hurdle. Southern California boasts the craziest apartment rates across the entire country, while budget-friendly units are practically non-existent. Because of this brutal market, everyday folks end up burning through almost their entire paycheck, simply trying to avoid sleeping outside. If that delicate financial juggling act fails for even a second, the fallout is brutal immediate lockouts, couch surfing, and ultimately winding up on the pavement. From there, massive financial forces take the wheel. Paychecks simply cannot catch up to the skyrocketing cost of groceries. And keeping a reliable gig is incredibly tough. Across plenty of industries right now, if you are already scraping the bottom of the barrel, bouncing back is near impossible, turning a short-term hurdle into a tragic, lifelong sentence of poverty. Meanwhile, the safety nets meant to catch folks are collapsing under the sheer volume of applicants. Trying to secure cheap apartments, psychiatric care, or cash grants is a confusing, broken nightmare. Sometimes the cavalry shows up way too late. For countless others, that rescue never actually arrives at all. Ultimately, believing people simply choose to live on the streets seems like a massive oversimplification, since every individual's background involves a mix of financial hardships, systemic failures, and private struggles compounding over the years. Maybe the tougher thing to ask isn't what pushes folks onto the streets, but rather how many everyday families are barely scraping by right on the edge. Drug dependency clearly plays a massive role in the unhoused epidemic throughout LA, yet we need to remember it is just a single puzzle piece in a massive crisis. Definitely not every unhoused person battles chemical dependency, though for a large chunk of them using narcotics can trigger and worsen. The daily chaos of surviving outdoors, rough estimates suggest roughly 30 to 35% of the unhoused population actively battles severe chemical dependencies. Basically, we are talking about tens of thousands of folks trying to survive chronic evictions alongside crippling substance abuse simultaneously. The most talked about narcotic right now is fentanyl, serving as the biggest red flag. It is an artificial painkiller drastically stronger than almost anything else previously hitting the streets. This drug has completely transformed the dependency crisis through ways you might not easily spot at first glance, creating a sluggish, drowsy type of existence. Users show lagging responses and a zoning out that leaves them looking completely checked out of reality. Gradually, this heavy mental fog turns everyday survival into an absolute nightmare, particularly when living outside requires keeping your guard up constantly. Against this backdrop, people are getting increasingly worried about fresh street chemicals grabbing headlines lately, namely a notorious street mixture frequently called crocodile. Even though it hasn't flooded American streets or shown up in data anywhere near fentanyl levels, folks constantly bring it up to show how street narcotics mutate into deadlier, twisted forms. Just the dark rumors surrounding it highlight a massive public panic regarding mysterious chemicals constantly flooding the market, bringing fresh waves of devastation and hurdles. Still, hyper-focusing entirely on the chemicals themselves often blind us to the tragic truth, because dependency absolutely never happens in a vacuum. It typically crashes head-on into eviction crises, psychological trauma, and extreme poverty, creating a toxic downward spiral that gets nearly impossible to escape. Whenever folks are already surviving without a permanent roof, these nightmares feed off each other, making getting clean feel like an impossible mountain. For everyone tuning into this video, let me be totally clear. We are absolutely not trying to spotlight misery just for the views, or just sensationalizing the tragedy. Our real goal here is giving proper background and deep insight by thoroughly analyzing the collision between chemical dependency and losing shelter, eventually painting a much broader landscape that smashes tired stereotypes and genuinely raises true public consciousness. First off, a massive shout out is absolutely owed to every single volunteer pouring their hearts into homeless outreach across LA. Navigating such a sprawling, chaotic metro area, public safety nets are absolutely essential for tackling the unhoused crisis. Practically daily, regional and state officials keep rolling out a huge variety of initiatives, specifically designed to offer emergency beds, psychiatric care, and concrete stepping stones back into permanent homes. Projects ranging from crisis centers and halfway spots to fully assisted living complexes got rolled out to tackle every phase of losing shelter. But actually tapping into these lifelines gets super complicated. The massive need easily crushes the available budgets, and Section 8 waitlists stretch out for years. For tons of people, merely battling the bureaucracy is a nightmare, particularly without reliable cell phones, transit, or valid ID cards. What looks like a solid safety net in government brochures often feels completely broken in real life. Meanwhile, street workers constantly hustle through every neighborhood, engaging with unhoused camps, passing out first aid, providing therapy, and guiding folks toward government resources. These ground-level pushes have successfully transitioned certain folks back indoors permanently. Unfortunately, the sheer magnitude of the disaster ensures any headway crawls at a snail's pace, rarely grabbing public attention. Taxpayer money obviously dictates the game plan. Massive budgets are continually dumped into fighting the LA crisis, showcasing just how critical things are, along with the absolute headache of fixing it. Still, serious doubts linger around. Wasted budgets, teamwork, and lasting success. Constructing apartments takes years, and safety nets demand endless cash to actually work right. Ultimately, the Public Assistance Network in LA showcases immense dedication alongside brutal boundaries, highlighting a metro desperate to manage an exploding disaster, simultaneously exposing the absolute nightmare of trying to balance funding, politics, and survival needs inside a constantly overwhelmed bureaucracy. Breaking down accountability regarding the LA unhoused epidemic makes it nearly impossible to point the finger at one specific trigger or one specific demographic. The hardcore truth goes much deeper and frequently gets pretty awkward to face. You definitely see situations, definitely not the bulk, where certain folks seem perfectly happy adopting a lifestyle, completely dodging normal societal expectations, surviving entirely off the grid, ignoring standard responsibilities, and sometimes showing zero respect for basic community standards. These guys basically operate in total freedom, crashing wherever they feel, like lighting up whatever they want, completely dodging the cops, and never worrying about grinding a 9-to-5 to earn cash. Government choices are definitely taking a lot of heat right now, since moves from Washington all the way down to local capitals really steered this disaster as the years passed. Moves backed by heavy hitters like Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom really got locals arguing, with a few folks calling those actions absolute musts. While plenty of folks argue those tactics totally miss the mark or ignore what is actually happening out on the streets. All this fighting just proves that nobody really has a clue about how an actual fix should look or the best way to roll one out. Pumping hundreds of billions into an Iranian conflict under the Trump administration is probably going to squeeze the United States economy for a bit, in my personal opinion. If you are watching this, I really hope you take a minute to get your ducks in a row and brace yourself for whatever happens next. Even if we do not feel the hit right away, that money squeeze always stretches way farther than anyone guesses, and those tax burdens folks have to shoulder might honestly go through the roof pretty soon, jumping way higher than anyone is really expecting. Then you have to look at the cash flow, where massive piles of money went straight into fixing the Los Angeles street crisis, but the actual results barely show up. With fresh high-rises popping up for public projects or just corporate expansion, you cannot help but wonder where our true focus really lies right now. We have to ask where the funds are going, what actually matters, and which projects are just expensive PR stunts instead of real help. Ultimately, you cannot pin this massive disaster on just one terrible mistake, since it is basically a giant pileup of bad choices and broken networks. The real takeaway might not be pointing fingers, but figuring out what duty actually means in a sprawling town where completely opposite worlds crash into each other daily. We used to have an era right around the early 2000s when the unhoused population in Los Angeles felt boxed in noticeable for sure, yet nowhere near as heavily baked into the daily routine of the entire metro area. You would only find it in specific spots, and folks talked about it like it was some distant world totally cut off from the regular urban grind. And fast forward to now, and that gap has pretty much completely vanished. The sheer size is obviously different, but the in-your-face reality is too, since folks living outside are not just stuck in Skid Row anymore. Tents pop up where you used to never see them outside, luxury malls down main avenues or right next to booming tech hubs, which totally flips how everyone views the problem. Turning a blind eye is practically impossible now, and nobody can brush it off as a localized fluke anymore. Honestly, the whole debate shifted gears since we are way past just talking about real estate shortages or bad personal choices. Now it is this massive, tangled web of insane living costs, mental health crises, and a completely shattered safety net. The wildest part is that nobody treats it like a passing storm anymore, because it really feels like this harsh reality permanently moved in to stay. What happens in Los Angeles is basically writing the playbook for a much bigger national crisis. It forces us to ask how America deals with the extreme clash between filthy rich and desperately poor, or rapid expansion versus keeping people safe. Getting this right is incredibly tough, and we are absolutely not getting overnight fixes either. Still buried in all this chaos is a real chance to finally pay attention, figure out the root causes, and completely flip the script on what it actually takes to build a community that refuses to let anyone fall completely through the cracks.